Is that enough time after the difficulty we have seen in getting spending bills passed? Or are you gearing up for another CR?
Well, look, I think whatever passes from here on will need to be passed in a bipartisan way. It's how we averted the debt default. It's how we averted the shutdowns, how we passed the Federal Aviation Act, the NDAA for security, and also the extension of the child tax cut and the different provisions. That's how we're going to get anything done out of the House. You're going to see the far right and far left probably vote against a lot of things, as they have been, and you'll see everyone else in the middle, roughly 300 members, vote in support of common sense bipartisanship. I think the biggest problem that we have is there are these members who believe that it's got to be all or nothing, and that's just not the way that business works, government works, life works. You have to give a little to get a little. And what we're seeing is now this compromise that is emerging from the Senate and the House. And we'll see. I think more members are upset, though, about not having as much input into this process. It's kind of come down to the leaders negotiating these individual bills, and then we'll have an opportunity to review it. Yes, we'll have the opportunity to read it, which I think is incredibly important to know what is in a bill before we vote for it. But I do feel that a lot of members, including myself, do feel that we've been sort of shut out of this process in terms of seeing what we would like to see in these various appropriation bills that we'll be taking up next week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if members like yourself are a bit dissatisfied perhaps with the transparency being provided by leadership and Speaker Mike Johnson, and as you mentioned, there are a number of conservatives who are dissatisfied with this another short-term CR that Mike Johnson initially said he did not want to do. Is his speakership in real danger, especially if he's going to be passing bipartisan bills that don't necessarily sit well with, say, the House Freedom Caucus?
Well, look, I don't think it should be. I think the reality is we're going to have this issue regardless of who the speaker is. There will be a group of people who will never be satisfied because we have to negotiate with the Senate. And what they need to recognize is that Republicans control just the House, and we control the House by just 2 votes. And so we need, if we're only 1/3 of the government, to actually work as best as we can with the Senate and the White House. We should fight for our priorities. We should continue to fight for serious provisions to get this border secured. We should fight for fiscal sanity. We should fight for the extension of our, tax credits that were very important under the Trump administration, that stimulated the economy, that brought us to 50-year low unemployment, lifted wages, and helped businesses invest. We should fight for all those priorities, and we need to, right? And we're doing that on behalf of the American people. But at some point, you have to recognize we're not going to get everything that we want. We have to take some of the things that the Senate's going to want, which we may not like, and we're going to have to give up some. But we should continue to fight as much as we can and as hard as we can to try to get real results for the American people. And like I said, you're going to see the far right and far left vote against anything that comes to the floor. And that's why it's going to rest on the 300 of us in the middle that hopefully will be able to come to an agreement here and support what the final product is.
Well, we talked about the border issue with your colleague from South Carolina, Congressman Ralph Norman. He joined us right around this time yesterday, talking about the border and the difficulty the House has had to address this. Here's what he said.
We're continually stressing to Mike that under any agreement ought to be firm metrics to stop the border hemorrhaging that's occurring. And we can't keep going with letting everybody from over 160 countries come into America.
Are you sending that same message to the Speaker as Congressman Norman is, or do you regret not having this Senate compromise come to the floor in the House?
Well, the Senate compromise does not do the job. What it does is it has an automatic shutdown if you average 5,000 individuals over a week, but then it's up to the president, a discretion to how long that border is closed. So if the president has authorities right now that he's not using to secure the border, what makes us think that he would use any additional discretion? The difference between the Senate bill and the House bill that we passed in May that Schumer won't allow for a vote is that our bill actually requires the president to do all these things: reinstate remain in Mexico, end catch and release. It makes them address the asylum issue, parole. Though we cannot give the president more discretion. He already has discretion.
Okay.
In fact,
you just said it, though, that the middle's got to decide this, right, Congresswoman? I mean, Jim Lankford is a serious conservative. I think you would agree. I suspect that you appreciate the professionalism of Chris Murphy, not to mention Kyrsten Sinema, coming at this all from different angles. How's it going to get better than this? This is what so many lawmakers have been asking for, isn't it?
Well, I guess what the House believes is if the Senate truly wants funding as their number one priority is funding for Ukraine and Taiwan and Israel, we can match that with H.R. 2, our Border Security Act, which is our number one priority. We can give a little on H.R. 2, but certainly we want something passed that's actually going to do the job. For me to pass something that's just going to simply give the president more discretion that he's not going to use doesn't really work, because right now he has executive authorities under Title 1182 and 1225 that he can use today. That's what President Trump used to secure the border. Unfortunately, the current president used it to dismantle the border, and that is what we're seeing taking place right now.
Well, your Republican colleague in the House has, Brian Fitzpatrick, is leading an effort to have a slimmed down package, would be defense only, get out some of the humanitarian aid, have a border component in it. Is that something, Congressman, you could get behind? Would you sign on to a discharge petition to get that on the floor if he were to put it forward?
Well, I'm actually reviewing that proposal now. It seems to be a better plan than what the Senate has put forward. I want to make sure that it actually does the job and secures the border. I think it is really what the Republicans in the conference have been talking about. They want to focus on military aid, not humanitarian aid. And so if we can focus on the military foreign aid and couple it with real border security solutions that are actually going to stem the flow, then I think it will work. So I'm reviewing that right now, and I've been speaking with Brian Fitzpatrick about it. So what's happening right now is just obviously unsustainable. And I think there's other issues as well that should be addressed, right? We do want to have more visas so people can come legally to satisfy employers' needs, have family-sponsored visas as well. I think those are areas, adding more judges to deal with the backlog. But none of it matters if we don't actually stem the flow right now. We should never be encouraging people to pay thousands of dollars to be smuggled over our southern border at the hands of the drug cartels. Nobody benefits from that. Absolutely no one. So we can do it in a better way, but we have to stem the flow.
Well, and Congresswoman, finally, as I know that the immigration border issue is very close to you in New York, given what New York City is experiencing, just a final question on New York. Now that the redistricting map has been finalized, how do you feel about it?
Well, my district stays the same, so I'm happy about that. I was disappointed when the Democrats sued to try to get the independently drawn map removed, but it seemed that the process overall worked out and everyone seems to be satisfied knowing that at least they have a competitive seat. I mean, that's all we've asked for. We just wanted to have a fair race. We believe we can win on merit, on debate, on policy, as we did in 2022. And so I think overall we survived this process once again, but it should have been left alone after the court appointed a special master. You couldn't get any more independent than that. And the map shouldn't have remained. I think the bigger issue in New York is that Democrats have caused so much destruction that they're afraid of their reelection chances. I mean, that's the reality. All you're seeing right now, from the president's open border policies to the state's bail law to the sanctuary policies of New York City Council that have released individuals back onto our street instead of deporting them if they commit crimes. People are very frustrated right now with the Democratic Party, and rightfully so. And so I think that we'll see New York Republicans that won in 2022 prevail again this year, and we will be, again, the key to the House keeping the Republican majority.